I'm happy that all of you joined. I hope you're here because you're all interested in video games. You either love playing video games or you've been really interested in at least learning. You played a game and you wondered, hey, this is really cool. How did they make this? I wish I can make something like this. So either you love video games or you've ever thought about how video games are made. If you ever fall in this group, then I think this talk would be like really helpful for you guys. So before I start, a little bit about myself and how I got into making video games. So I'm from Chennai, and even though I look a lot older than I actually do, I'm just 25 years old. So I'm from Chennai. I was born there, and I was brought up. I did my entire schooling in Chennai. So I was in the same school from kindergarten to 12th standard, and like a lot of you you know how people usually in India are thought to, like, hey, you have to go into engineering, you have to go into commerce, you have to become a doctor, you have to become a lawyer. So these are the kind of things that you're usually like told when you're in school, right? Like a lot of our parents sort of teach us to think about our careers that way or what we want to do. But for me, I loved playing video games as a kid. Like whenever I had to study, I would have this there was a small gaming console called a Game Boy that you can pretty much hold in your hand. So what I would do is I would keep my book out in front of me and I would keep the Game Boy in between the books that I was studying, and I'd be playing that instead. So that's how I would usually spend my school days. Luckily, I still managed to pass. I never had a problem with grades. So my parents never found out that I was doing that. So if they ever see this video, I have to apologize to them because I'm revealing that to them now. But that's pretty much how I grew up. I used to love playing video games while also doing other things. Video games was not the only thing I did, but it was a huge thing that I loved doing as a kid because I'm sure all of you play video games as well. So can some of you share what your favorite video games are? A lot of you mentioned that you play video games. So I would love to know what video games you guys play and why you like playing it. So how do you want to, like, so you guys can just raise your hand and unmute and share what video game you like to play and why you like playing it. So Prakash, you shared that you like Real Cricket 20. So are you a huge cricket fan? Is that why you like playing Real Cricket?
I like.
Yes.
Because column
I
names
like
and
both of
already
them.
decided that
It is my first proper cricket game, which I found out.
That's really nice. So what do you like about it?
It has commentary.
Mm-hmm.
It
intelligence
has
is
a real commentary.
Okay. Okay. Pranati, did you have a game to share?
Ignoring select
Racing games.
Oh, which racing game do you like?
Car racing games.
So are you looking forward to the new Forza Motorsport game that's about to come out?
Yes.
I have one of my very close friends is actually a developer on that game. He is part of the team making that game. So even I'm very excited for that game to come out.
I like Pardo Parking.
Nice. Sweet. So is there anyone else who would like to share what game you guys play and why you like playing it? And that's okay. Like I know that sometimes talking about video games is still sort of seen in a different way still in India. Like people think that playing video games is just a waste of time, or hey, it's only something that you do if you're not good at studies or if you don't have anything better to do. But I hope after this talk, you sort of whoever's listening have a different perspective on it. They are able to see video games in different ways. And I see a few more people have shared that they love playing Minecraft, they love playing FIFA, they play it on mobile and PC, and that's awesome. Like the fact that you are able to play so many games at this age is great, because at my age, we couldn't get video. When I was your age, I couldn't get to play video games that easily because games were more expensive. And again, parents used to think that, hey, playing video games was a waste of time. So I'm really happy that you guys have access to these games. and you guys like playing it. But for me, when I started reaching like my 8th standard and 9th standard, I started thinking a lot about, hey, why do I like, what makes games so nice to play? Why do I love spending so much time in it? Why do I love playing a video game and like escaping my studies or anything else happening in the world around me, and just like the story, like how fun it is to play? I loved doing it so much that I wanted to know how it was made. So that's what got me first interested in how video games are made. And of course, the internet was not as accessible or as easy for people to use as it is now. Like right then, even having a single computer in the house or having a proper internet connection was very difficult. YouTube and Google were not as advanced as what it is right now. So I really struggled. I didn't know what to do or where to go. The only thing I knew was, hey, computer games work on computers, right? So I guess I should know programming. So that was my only reason for choosing to study computer science in both school and in college. That was my entire reason. I knew nothing about video games. I only knew, hey, it worked in computers. So I needed to know programming. Only reason. Thinking back, I can, if I could talk to my old like younger self, I would be shouting at him not to do that. But then here I am. I somehow made it. So it's not the worst decision that I could do. So while doing computer science or while studying computer science, I realized that the colleges in India didn't really teach anything related to video games when it came to computer science again. So that's when I started realizing, hey, there's nothing here for me. There is no school here that could teach me how to make video games. So that's when the internet had developed enough where I could go online, and I started searching on Google how to make a video game. I actually started by searching that very sentence, how to make a video game. And that's when I started like finding out things. I started finding out videos on YouTube about people talking about how video games are made. I didn't really have anyone I could talk to, like how you are able to listen to me. I didn't know anyone. It's not easy for people to meet other people who made video games in India. Like it's very hard. Like how many people know anyone else who's made a video game? Like I'm sure all of you are from different parts of India. How many people here know anyone else who's made a video game or is working as a game developer? But I'm sure, yeah.
I don't know anyone.
You don't know anyone, right? But I'm sure everyone here knows someone who's an engineer, someone who's a doctor, someone who's a lawyer. But then, exactly. Exactly. You have people in your own family who do those professions. So if you were ever interested in doing those roles, you could easily go and talk to them. I didn't have anything like that. So the only support system I had for learning anything was the internet. And that's what I started with. I started doing online courses. I found some online courses on game development. I started like trying things out. I downloaded some softwares and I started making games. And the games I made were terrible. Like it's the only things I could put together at that time because I was very dumb when it came to making games. I didn't know any better. And I started putting together whatever I could. Like for me, I was just excited. Oh, look, I'm able to make the ball roll around. Oh, oh no, that image is jumping around. So I'm able to make this text flash. So I was so excited about doing the smallest thing. And that's where everyone starts with. No one starts with making the best game. No one starts with making a Minecraft or a Real Cricket 20 as their first game. Everyone starts with the smallest game. If you are able to throw a ball and it hits a brick and the brick breaks, that's a game. That's how your first game starts. And I started with something like that. And I was able to make one or two small projects like that. And by the time I was about to finish my college, I started looking for jobs. I was looking to get a video game job. And I was lucky enough that I just started emailing people. I started reaching out to I started searching again, what game studios are there in India? And again, the list is very small. So in that small list, I started finding out names and I started emailing people out there, sending like, hey, this is I'm someone interested in becoming a game developer. These are the projects that I made. Do you have an internship that I can join? So for those who do, all of you know what an internship is?
I know.
That's good.
I'll
So
put
for
it.
anyone
Oh,
for anyone who doesn't know what an internship is basically like a practice run when before you get a job. So it's like you're still a student and they know that you're still learning, so they have you learn while working with them. You join a company or you join a team and you're working with them while still being a student, so that you're learning while you are actually working. And that is the best way for you to get into any job. If you are able to get an internship, the people around you, the people you work with, are the people who also teach you, are the people they teach you while you are working with them, because they are experts in their field. They are geniuses who know everything about that industry or about the work you're doing. So for me, for someone who grew up with no one around me to who knew anything about video games or how they were made, I finally had an opportunity to do an internship at Byju's. I'm sure everyone knows Byju's right now. They are the sponsors of the cricket team. They have the learning thing, and they were making a learning game with Disney. And I was lucky enough to be one of the first people to join the new game studio that they had started. And I got that internship by emailing the new creative director, the lead game designer in that team. And he became my first mentor. Like he was the first person who actually showed me, hey, this is what game development is about. This is this is how games are made. And he took me under my wing, and I owe everything to him for where I am now, to the current job I have. For me, being able to give this conversation with you, I owe it all to him. So I started working with him, and I started working on video games with him. And while making that game, I started learning so much. I was surrounded by around 10 other game developers who all taught me different things. And that's when I started really understanding how video games are made. It's only by actually making a video game do you understand exactly how video games are made. But then I realized that the kind of games that we were making in India were not the kind of games I really wanted to make. You know, when you play a game and you have a game in your mind, like, do any of you have ideas of, hey, if I make a game, I want to make a game like this? Does anyone have an idea like that in your head?
yes, yeah. The notebook I had run it. Okay.
So if any of you have ever thought about a story that you want to make into a video game, I had such an idea in my head. So I realized that, hey, the kind of games we are making in India are not the kind of games I want to make. So that's when I made the decision to do my higher studies in the US, because the US is one of the biggest video game hubs in the world. Like, if for a country to make the kind of games that I want to make, the US was the best place to do it. So I went to do my higher studies there. And there I learned so much more, because then I was surrounded by people from all over the world. Some of my best friends while doing my higher studies was a person from Colombia, another person from South Korea, another person from Japan. So it was like an international team, and I was learning so much by being around so many different cultures. They and all of us were brought together because of one thing. We all loved playing games, and we all loved making games. And when you're in an environment that you are surrounded by all these things, and this is why I would say making video games is one of the best jobs in the world. Every single person who is there making a game is there because they love doing what they do. You do not get into making a video game unless you really love video games and you're really in a place where everyone is so excited about every small thing that you want to do. So imagine if you were learning something, if you're learning math in school, if you were learning science in school, how many of you feel it's boring to study all that? Has anyone felt that? I felt that. I felt sometimes in school when I'm studying something, this is so boring. Why am I even doing this? I don't want to do this. Right? Has anyone felt that? What is one subject you guys don't like at all in school? Yeah, Prahan.
Basic science. I don't like basic science in school.
In basic science, I've been there. I wasn't a huge fan of basic science either. Does anyone else have a subject that you guys don't like in school that you're studying right now? Physics?
Civics.
Civics, yes. Social science and civics was again something that I really didn't like doing. So you guys realize when you don't like a subject, it's so much harder to bring yourself to do well in it, right? Like you have to force yourself to study, and even when you do that, you don't feel like you're actually learning something or you're doing it well, and you have to struggle really hard to do it. But then when it comes to making video games, you're making it because you genuinely love what you're doing. You're only doing that because you really want to do something great. So that made me put a lot more effort into my studies. Even though I was studying video games, I was studying how to make video games, I would stay up all night. Like I would never imagine doing that in school, where I would stay up till like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning. I would go to class at 8 a.m., finish my class, I would stay back in college and I would keep doing my assignments till 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. And I was tired. I was super tired. The only way I survived was because I had a cup of coffee with me all the time. That's the only way I survived doing that. But in the end of it, I was still happy. And that was the most important part for it. Even though I was like really tired, I loved what I was doing. And it's only because of that that I was able to do very well. So regardless of whatever you guys choose to do in your life, you don't have doesn't have to be video games. Just make sure it's something you love doing and you're really happy doing it, because that is what is going to make you really want to put in that effort and really do something well. Because right now when you are doing your homework in school, I'm sure most of you are just going to be like, I've done what I have to. You're not going to look at doing a perfect job. You're not going to look at going beyond what your teachers are asking you to do. They will tell you to do, tell you to answer all these questions, and you just answer the bare minimum, like the least that they ask for. But when you really like what you're doing and you're really passionate about what you want to do, you want to go further and beyond what they are asking for, because you want to do the best that you want. So even though our assignments were like, hey, make one game level that does this, I would make the game level, but then I would be like, hey, won't it be even more fun if I do this, like 10 more different things? So I will try doing those 10 more different things, even though I wasn't asked to do that. And it's only because I could do that that I could stand out from my from the rest of my classmates, and I managed to get a very good job at this current game studio that I'm at. And I'm very excited about this new game that I'm working on, and I can actually share you a game trailer about that game, if you guys so that I can share it with you, so that you guys know what kind of game I'm working on right now.
Yes.
So this is a trailer for the current game that I am working on, so that you guys know what it is and how it looks like and everything. So that was a small trailer for the game that I'm working on right now. The name of that game is called Towers. So I hope you guys found that interesting. And the whole point about that game is that there are so many games that are so focused on you destroying things and cutting down things, but our game is about you growing an ecosystem. You come into a land that is completely empty, and you have to regrow the entire forest. You have to make the creatures come back. So it's not just about you taking things from the environment, but also giving back and growing it and nurturing it. And unless you're able to balance both growing the ecosystem, you cannot build your civilization. So that is the kind of game that we are working on. And I was really excited to work on this game, and I'm very lucky to be a game designer in a game like this. And the only reason I was able to do all of this, or even come to a point where I was able to be a part of such a team. And let me check if that is the video. Yes, that is exactly the video that I shared with you guys, that which Prakash has shared in the chat. So if you guys want to watch the entire video, the link is in the chat because Prakash was able to find it. So that is the game that we are working on, and we are a team of 20 people. It's just 20 people working on this, but we are extremely, the rest of the team is extremely experienced, and there is a lot of passion behind us doing this. We are all super excited to creating this game world and having you guys play it. But I didn't start from this. If I was to make this as the very first game that I've ever made, I couldn't do that. I could not have known how to go about doing it. The only way I could do that is because I've grown. I've done small games and I've grown little by little. Every single thing that I've done over the years has slowly led me towards being a part of this team and making this game. So if any of you have like huge ideas about like, hey, I want to do this, I want to reach this thing, that need not be the very first thing that you try making. There are small steps that you need to make to reach that goal. It's always a marathon. Any goal or any dream that you guys have to do, it's not a sprint. You don't have to reach it tomorrow. You don't have to reach it the next day. You don't have to reach it in 1 year. For me, this goal of me being a part of this team and making this started 6 years ago when I searched for that first thing on Google, how to make a game. It started from that one sentence, and then it led me to being a part of this team, working on something huge and something amazing like this. So every time you think about like, hey, I want to do something great, or I have this goal, I have to reach it, remember that it starts with baby steps and small steps that you guys have to do. So now I mentioned that the team that I am working on has only 20 people in it. When it comes to video games, that is actually a very small team, because 20 people because making video games is extremely difficult. It takes a lot of people to do it. It takes a lot of disciplines, because video games has not just programming, it has art, it has sound, it has animations, it has so many different things coming together, right? So you need all these people who are experts and are super talented in every single thing out there. You all saw that video. You all saw so many different things happening. You saw different creatures there. You saw the player being able to run and use a glider to like glide down. So even to make that simple thing of the player being able to glide down, it took so many different people to do that. It took a programmer to it took a designer. So I am a game designer, and if I was to make the gliding mechanic or the gliding ability that you saw, I would have had to make rules like, hey, the glider will only start if you jump and there is nothing beneath the player's floor for so much distance. It would be the programmer who actually codes all that functionality to make that happen. And it'll be the artist who makes the glider. It will be the animator who makes that animation of the player pulling it out and stuff like that. So you see, even for something so small, like a small part of a game, you have so many different people of different skill sets and different talents coming together and working together to make even one thing in a video game possible. So you guys mentioned games like GTA 5, Minecraft, Real Cricket, and stuff like that. Can any of you guess how many people it took to make GTA 5? Does anyone know that answer?
If what?
How many people did it take to make a game like GTA 5? Does anyone know how many? Just make random guesses. Just throw numbers out. It's fine.
57.
In my
Okay, Pranati
average
is
number, I say a 27 in my average.
okay. Akshay says it's 27 and Pranati says 57. Anyone else wants to take a guess?
And
Just throw a number out. It's fine.
I feel 100.
100. Okay.
No, no.
But the main one who takes 27 or 57 something else, it shows Rockstar Gaming who made GTA 5.
Yes. So Rockstar was the game studio that makes it. So the team that made it, their name is Rockstar. And let me tell you how many people it took. It took 1,000 people to make that game. It took 1,000 people and it costed them almost $150 million to make that game. The cost that it took for ISRO in India, the space agency in India, to send a rocket towards Mars, to send the rover around Mars, Mangalyaan, that costed only $75 million. So the cost of making that one game, GTA 5, costed more than it took for India to send a rocket to Mars. So that is how video games are. Video games are a huge industry, and depending on the kind of game that you want to make, you need so much more people, you need so much more money to make it. That is why video games is one of it is one of the hardest industries to work in, but it is also one of the biggest industries to work in. In the US, the video game industry is bigger and makes more money and profit than Hollywood, the music industry, than any sports league. All the sports league like NBA, NFL, NHL, the football league, the basketball league, the hockey league, all of it combined does not make as much money as video games do in the US. So video games is an incredibly big industry. There is so much there, and it is one of the fastest growing industries out there. So that is why it is one of the most exciting jobs to be in, because everyone is knowing that video games is something super popular. Like everyone knows Fortnite, right?
Yes,
Like
Fortnite.
everyone knows. Yeah,
Yes.
everyone knows.
Fortnite,
Yeah.
Fortnite.
So, so either you've seen it or you played it or you've at least heard of it.
Yeah, I
The
played it
Fort-
Fortnite.
Yeah, and it's super popular. It's very fun. I play it with my friends as well. So the game Fortnite takes over 400 people to make it. It is a big game that is constantly being worked on, and they're bringing new things to you. And Fortnite is so popular that when they have their world championship, Fortnite is like a sport, right? They have a competition where people play against each other and everything. So Fortnite, if you win the world championship, you earn $16 million from just winning the tournament. So that's so much money, that because there is so much popularity in making video games, because people love playing video games. And Akshay, did you have something to share?
Yes, I have one.
Yeah, so you played Fortnite as well?
Yes, I played, but my laptop got repaired. So
Oh, no.
I am playing with phone.
I hope you can fix your laptop soon and you can start playing it again.
Yeah.
But then, as I've shared, like there are so many big studios. Like you already mentioned, Rockstar, who makes GTA 5, and the people who make Fortnite, they are called Epic Games. And I'm sure you guys have heard of a company called Ubisoft, who make like Assassin's Creed and other big games like that. So there are those big studios, and these big studios are called AAA studios. They're called AAA studios because there are a lot of people working on it. They have hundreds of almost thousands of people working on it. And each game they make costs millions of dollars to make. But then that's not every game developer, right? Like I told you, the team that I'm a part of has only 20 people. So these smaller, because not every game is massive, not every game is as big as GTA 5. You see a lot of games that are very small. Like I'm sure a lot of you play video games on your phone. A lot of you play a lot of smaller games that only that have a story only for like 5 hours. So these
I
are
have a
made.
game.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot
It's
of you.
better.
Which
It's
game is
better
that?
than GTA 5. I test GTA 5's all copies or Minecraft copies. I
Mhm.
have the game in my phone.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a lot of people who make smaller games with smaller teams, and these smaller teams are called indie studios. So there are two types of game studios. You have AAA studios and you have indie studios. AAA studios are the ones that are very big, that have hundreds of people working on it. But indie studios are very small teams. They have only like 10 or 20 people. There are some people who there are games made by just one person. So those kinds of games exist as well. So depending on who you are and what kind of game you want to make, the number of people you need changes, and the number of skill sets you need changes as well. Is it possible for one person to make a game? Absolutely. Except you will have to do everything. You will have to be the one who designs the game. You will have to be the one who programs it. You'll have to be the one who does all the art for it. You'll have to do all the 3D modeling. You'll have to do all the animations and the sounds. So that is a lot of work, right? I'm definitely not talented enough to do that. I don't know, even though I know how it's done, I know I don't have the talent to do that. If you see how I draw, I'm terrible at drawing. I can bet you all have like 5,000 rupees that all of you can draw better than I can. Like all I can do is stick figures. So that's why I work with a team instead. I, as a game designer, have certain skill sets, but then there is someone who's incredible at art, who's amazing at making things look beautiful. So I leave the artwork to them, and I work on my part of it, which is designing the game. So when it comes to the people who are making a game, I mentioned that some people have hundreds of people, some teams have hundreds of people working on a game, and some have 20. So what are these different people? Like, what are they doing in a game to need so many people or to need different skill sets? So a video game has three major parts to it that all need to come together to make a game possible. One is design. So design, does anyone know what a design in a game is? When you hear the word game design, what is it that comes in your mind?
Maybe there's a certain features of the game, like
Go ahead.
If I talk about a cricket game, then that in the design I would need
30 seconds total.
the crowd and
Mhm.
There was another 10
Can I
seconds. People.
man and bowler. And
Exactly.
in the
Waiting for the other
squad,
one.
we will need some
Can I
Before the
present
test
a
is
game
done,
which have
we are
everything?
seeing.
squad selections thing.
Exactly.
We
So,
don't know.
so the three parts of making a video game are design, programming, and art. And for us to think about video games, like, you know what programming is. You know, when you look at a video game, you know exactly what a programmer does. When you look, yeah, Prakash?
my doubt is what
Mhm.
is the difference
What we have,
between
we have
art,
95.
game art, and game design.
Exactly, and that is a very good question, and I'm glad you brought that up, and that because that was exactly what I was hoping you guys
What
asked.
is the
Yes,
command that
Akshay?
you run? Hey, what is the command that?
Did you have a question, Akshay?
Yes. Can I present a game which have everything like Minecraft, GTA 5?
You can share it with us at the end of the talk. Definitely, we will have time where you will be able to share things with me. So you can, I would love to know what the game is. So you can share it with me at the end of this talk once we are all done. So
What is the
keep that
command that you run?
stored so that you can share it with me. But
Okay, thank you.
coming back to the, coming back to the question of what is the difference between art and design. So a lot of people think that the two are the same, but they're completely different, and they work together, but they're completely different. So you know, when you're looking at a game, you know that programming is making things move around and all the code that goes to it. And art is how visually it looks and how appealing it looks visually, like the graphics and the artwork, the 3D models and stuff. So what design is in game design, it is about the rules that go into the game. So when it comes to something like imagine you're playing real cricket and you're trying to hit the ball, It is the game designer who comes up with, this is how much force the bat has to apply on the ball for it to fly this far. It's about coming up with the rules of, hey, when I press this key, this is what should happen. So a designer is about someone who decides, hey, what should we do in this game so that it is fun for the player. So this is, if you have games have all sorts of stories, it has all sorts of like abilities the player can do, and the art looks in certain ways, but you need some reason behind why you want the game to work in a certain way, right? You need a reason to make the game work in specific ways that the player finds fun. Like when you play a horror game, you want to, you have, the game designer is the one who decides, hey, what do we do so that the player feels scared in the right places. It doesn't make sense if the player is scared completely, right? You need some moments where it's like silent and quiet, where nothing happens, and it's only in specific times where you have something coming out at you and scaring you. So it is up to a game designer to understand and be like, okay, I think if we add the scare element at this place and have it come like this, that is when the player will feel the most scared, or that's when they'll feel more excited about feeling scared. Because if you're constantly scaring someone throughout the game, at one point they get bored about it. So when you come to, so a game designer is the one who decides all that. When you're using like a gun for in GTA 5 for some reason, for one reason, for you to be able to realize, okay, this gun will have only these many bullets, because we want the player to go around and search for more weapons. It's the game designer who decides how many bullets this gun should have. Or if you're playing Minecraft, the amount of hits it takes for you to mine iron using a stone pickaxe, it is a game designer who decides that. And there are so many reasons behind them wanting to do that, because they want to they want you to upgrade to a higher tool, like a higher level tool, right? So they will be the ones who decide that, hey, if we make the stone pickaxe only this strong, that will make the player want an iron pickaxe more. So it's a game designer who makes up rules like that. But it's only possible if design, programming, and art all work together to make this happen. Because when it comes to video games, as a designer, I can only give these rules to the programmers. It is only the programmer who actually codes it in and makes that functionality. And it is then the artist who then gives all the artwork to make it look appealing. And I don't have the skill. I can program, but I am not as good in programming as some people who are experts at it. So I would leave that to them. But I am an expert at understanding, hey, this is what the player will find fun. This is what the player would want to do. And for the idea that we have, this is how we implement it, or this is how we can do it. And I work with the programmers to get that functionality. And I work with the artists so that they can create this visually appealing or very pretty looking thing for you to look at and for you to work in a game. So when you're making a game, there are 5 steps that we follow while you're making it. The first step is the idea for the game. So Prakash, you said, so the story must have a story so that the designer can add details easily. Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm getting towards. So the first thing that you need to make a game is the idea. What is your game about? What is the experience that you're trying to have? And that's not just the story. The story is just a part of this idea. The major part about a game is the games are about experiences. You're making players feel something. You're making them, it is the one medium where the player, you as the player are a part of the story. In a movie or when you're reading a book, you're just looking at it like an audience member. You are not a part of the story, right? When you're looking at a movie, when you're watching a movie or watching a cartoon or a TV show, you're just watching it. There's nothing you can do to be a part of that story. You cannot change things that happen there. You cannot do things. Whereas in video games, you are able to be a part of that experience. You are able to do things with it. So when you're coming up with the idea for a video game, it is all these people coming together. It is about having this idea of, hey, this is what we want the player to feel. This is how they should feel when they are playing this game. And we want this kind of story in this game. So, and it is not one person who does that. It is not a game designer who does that. Everyone is a part of coming up with ideas. Whether you're a programmer, whether you're an artist, whether you're someone in marketing, whether you're someone who's a producer who's just supporting the team, all of us come together and all give ideas, and we try to shape this into a game that we think people will love to play. The second thing is the planning. We start planning out, okay, this is the idea that we have. So now we start putting together, this idea can now be used to make, we can have this kind of ability. We want it to look in this way. We want this kind of art style. And once we've planned all those things, we then start prototyping. So prototyping basically means you're making a small version of the game that is just for testing, to know that, hey, we have this idea, but is this fun? Will people want to play it? Will people want to actually do it? That is called prototyping. And when games are so expensive, I told you like GTA cost $150 million to do it. They cannot make the entire game and if they do the entire game and spend $150 million on it, and then they realize people don't like it or it's not fun, is $150 million wasted. So they only start doing it by making a small test version of it to be like, hey, let's make this and see if people actually want to play something like this. So you make something called a prototype. And then once you've tested it and you realize, hey, people like this, people actually want to play something like this, then you start the actual development. Then you start actually like working together as a team to come up with all the abilities that the player needs, and all the programming and creating all the art. And finally, after all that is done, we then test it. We then have to see, okay, we are now making people actually play this video game, and are they enjoying it? Are they having fun? We will start playing it to see if there are issues in the game, there are any bugs, or there are any problems in the game. And then we fix it. And once we think, hey, it's fun, we like the game, we think everyone else is going to like it, it's only then that you release the game. And it sounds like there's a lot happening, and there is, because games take a lot of time to make as well. Minecraft was made in 2011, and they're still releasing new things. They're still coming out with like new things even over 10 years later. GTA 5 took 5 years to make. So all these games take a long time to make because there's so much that goes into it. So I can very quickly show you and share the game software. I'm going to share my screen to give you an idea of the process that goes into making a video game. So I'm going to show a small demo of how it works. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. So the software that you guys are seeing right now is something called a game engine. The game engine is basically the software within which we create the game. It is a 3D world within which we are able to create the game. So right now I have like a small testing game that I've already made, where I have a character and the character is able to move around and jump and all these kinds of things. So when I'm testing some things like that, like if you're able to see like, hey, how far can the player jump, you can now like test in a game, like in a level like this. So imagine I am trying to make, I'm going through and I'm making a level for a game. And I realize that the player has to go through a dark corridor like this. Now it's really dark right here, right? So as a game designer, I would be like, hey, the player would probably want to see what is inside that dark corridor because they're going through it. And it's not nice for it to be this dark and them to not see what is here. See, the screen is completely black here. And the players won't like that. They won't like how dark it is. So I would be like, okay, I think there should be a light source here. So the game engine has all these features where you can drag and drop a light here. And see, there's a light inside. So this software, it is called Unreal Engine, and it is free for people to download and use. So this is this is the software used to make big games like for Fortnite is made using Unreal Engine. So this is a free software that I am using in the current game that we are making. So right now I have a light source here, and I am able to now see through the corridor. But what if I was making a horror game, or I was making a mystery game, and I actually wanted the player to go through this dark space, but then you still want light in this game, right? Yeah, because the player needs to see something that's happening. But then what if they should go and turn on a light switch to see what is in there instead of a light already being there? Right now, I have a light source here and you'll be able to see it. But what if you have to go and turn on a light in here? That would require the player actually going in here and not knowing what is in that till they turn on the light. Doesn't that seem a lot more exciting? Because the player has to do something to be able to see what is in there. So what would I do? As a game designer, I've now thought that, hey, having a light, instead of a light already being in this corridor, it would be so much better if the player is able to turn on the light. So what I would do is I would talk to my engineers and the artists in my team and be like, hey, we should have a light that the player is able to turn on. And because I need to test it, I want to be able to, I would tell the engineers, can you make a light that I can put into the world and have it so that when the player is close enough, they have a button that they can press and it will turn on the light. And can you give me options like, hey, can I control what color the light is? Can I change how bright the light should be? The engineer will take all these information and he will create something from that. And the artist will also be like, and I tell the artist, hey, I want a light that the player can look at and know that, hey, this is a light. So he will create a light that can be used in the game that will tell the player that, hey, this is actually a light source. So after all that is done, they all go and do the work and they come back and tell that, hey, we've created it. So the artist will give me a 3D model. Because this is a 3D game, they will give me a 3D model of that light. And the engineer will put the light bulb into that so that it actually turns on and off. And they give me that functionality. And that is what I have created here right now, that the player can sort of, now me as a designer, this is what has been provided to me. So now I can now, so Pranati, did you have a question?
Can you make something like if the person does an activity, then the lights switch on?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. If that is what and you as a game designer can decide, they can do whatever they want to turn the light on. Maybe they have to solve a puzzle. Maybe there is no electricity and you have to solve a puzzle so that they have electricity to turn on the light. Depending on the kind of game you want to make, you can come up with anything. If you're making a puzzle game, that is a very good solution to do. You can, so that they have a puzzle to solve before they can turn on the light in that corridor. If and that as a game designer, that is what game designers do. If the idea is that, hey, they have to turn on the light, you as a game designer decides, hey, this is the most fun way to do it. This is the best way to go about doing it. So I've now spoken to the engineers and the artists and they've created this. Now I have something that I can place in the game world like this. You see, it is now a light source that is here, and it will now, the engineers have coded it so that when I go close to it, it will give me information of, hey, press this key to turn it on. So for testing, I can sort of change how bright the light should be here. You can see when I'm changing the value that is here, the light intensity value, it is getting brighter. Because I had asked the engineers to do that, they created this thing for me. I can change the color of that light. I can make it red in color. I can make it blue. I can make it green. So I have all that control. And they've already made it in a way where if the player starts playing from here, the light is initially off. You can see the light that's here. And it's only when I go here, it says press E to turn on the light. So let me make this full screen so that you guys can see it. So you see it says press E to turn on the light. Now when I press the key E, it turns on. And the text changes to press E to turn off the light. So the artists were the ones who made the light that you see on the wall here. So you see how me as a designer, when I've spoken to engineers and artists, we've created something that I can place in the world. And me as a designer can now go back and set lights anywhere. I've created one light here. I can create another light that's further down here. And maybe that's a different color. Maybe that will be instead red in color. And now I can go, when I start playing, when I go here, it says press E to turn on the light. It turns on this one. When I go here, it says press E to turn on the light. it turns here, and look, immediately, just because I changed the color to red, it looks so much more scary, right? It looks so much more intense. And that's it. The programmers didn't do anything for that. They just gave me, I knew that as a designer, if I have these tools that I can play with, I can create these experiences. I can make this scene more scary. If I made the same light a white light instead, this is white in color now. If I test this out and see how it is for the player to play here, if I can actually find the light, hold on. Oops. See, I noticed one issue with, so now when I turned it on, it doesn't seem as scary right now, right? But see, just changing something like a color can make the player feel different things. And it is me who went and turned this light on. So that is just something as simple as turning a light on that takes so much work from a designer, from an artist, from a programmer. And we all come together to make something like this happen. So that is what video games are all about. And if I have now, this is just a light switch that you have to turn on. If you have to make if you have multiple other things that the player can interact with, maybe they have a door you can open, maybe you have a button you can press so that you can now use an elevator to go up. There are now multiple different things that the player can interact with. So now we make something called an interaction system. So me as a game designer will be like, hey, we need multiple objects that the player can interact with. And when you press the button to interact with those things, it should all do different things. So that is again me talking to the engineer to create something like that. That is again, and the artists have to create all those different things for the player to look at that they can interact with. So this is sort of how video games are made. And the world is just an empty box like this. The softwares that we use, it is just an empty box like this for us as game developers to create new things. I can now place objects in here, and when I start playing, that is going to be in the world here. And maybe I want this box to fall down, and maybe because things don't float in the world, right? Like you see things when you throw a ball, it is able to fall down, it is able to roll around. So everything in these game engine allows something called physics. So when I turn on this button that says simulate physics, and I start playing, and the cube drops now, and I'm able to move it around. So these softwares have all these things. If you have stuff like physics that usually takes so much more time and energy for us to calculate, these softwares already give all these abilities for us to do. So we use softwares like this to create all those video games that you know and love. So this is a very short demo of what goes into making a video game. I know it was very short, and if I had another 1 hour, I would spend that 1 hour showing you so many more new things. But I know we are a little short on time. There are a lot of things that I would love to show you even now. And you guys are free to reach out to me. If you send me a message and if you're interested in video games, I will throw resources at you. I will be like, what's this video? This is a software you can use and stuff like that. And Prahan, did you have a question?
So the artist will show to the designer from drawing.
Yeah, so before the artist actually makes the 3D model that I use, like you saw the lamp that I used, right? So before they actually make it, they will do like a drawing of it to be like, hey, do you want the light to look like this? They will give ideas too. I think it'll look really nice if you make the light look like this. For instance, if you are actually making like a science fiction, if you're making a fantasy game set back in the past, they cannot make a light that looks all like it's from a spaceship or a science fiction thing, right? So even though it is artistically looking, it has to fit within the story and stuff like that. So the artist will instead make like a concept of, hey, we want the light to look like this. I think this will look really nice. And me as a designer can be like, yeah, you're right. I think we should make it this way. And then they will then make the 3D model. And there are softwares that you can use to make 3D models and stuff. And I wish I had the time to like show you how that's made and stuff. But again, I am more than happy for you guys to reach out to me if you are interested in like, hey, how do they make 3D models for games? how do they make animations in games for like 2D games and stuff like that. What if I want to be a game programmer? What if I want to be a game designer? I wish I would spend another 2 hours talking about it. So you are more than welcome to reach out to me and ask those questions. But within the time that we have, you are free to ask me any other questions that you might have. Akshar, did you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I present that?
The game? Yeah, you can share the link of that game on the chat and I would be happy to take a look at that.
Even I would see.
Yeah.
Okay. If I'm doing this, you can take. I have 6 different games in my
Mhm.
phone. And
Yeah.
this game I played. This game has anything. If you go into search and
Mhm.
you put GTA 5, you get so many GTA 5 online multiplayer like this.
Yeah.
You can play it all.
Mhm.
And you get Minecraft. You get Minecraft, everything.
Mhm.
So I have Minecraft in my game source, and for this you have to make buildings like you have. But I have an easier way that this application, this
Mhm.
mind map has an application which you can create worlds like this. If
Mhm.
now if I install this, it will download. If you download and click play, you can play in Minecraft like this. If I take Minecraft,
Mhm.
that world will that world will come in Minecraft, that which I downloaded, that world.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And the game that you showed in the beginning, that game is called Roblox. And for anyone who does not
Roblox.
know, yes, exactly. So for anyone who does not know what Roblox is, it is basically a game within which you can make your own mini games. You can make games and share it with people in a very easy way that other people can play with. So if you are actually trying to make games and understand how games are made, that is actually a wonderful way to start learning how to do that. So these are games made by a lot of the games that you find on Roblox are made by other kids, are made by like people who are 10, 15-year olds who are just trying to like learn how to make games. And that is a great way to start on like making something like this. I've used, back in my time, Roblox didn't exist when I was trying to learn, but there were other softwares that are similar in nature that I would use. And that's what I learned before I started using the softwares the software that I showed you. That is the one used by a lot of these bigger studios that are making like massive games. Like the software I showed you is what is used to make Fortnite. It is what was used to make so many different games like the Tomb Raider and things like that. So it is, yeah, there are multiple softwares that you can use to make games, and Roblox is a great way to start learning how to make video games. So does anyone else have any other question? Oh, Aparna also recommended Dreams, which is a really nice way to like use virtual reality to create games. So yes, that is also a wonderful
How do
way
we
to start. Yeah,
how do
Prahan?
we how do we open GTA 5? I've been trying, but this tutorials only come.
So what did you ask? How do you?
Only how do we play GTA 5? I mean, only its tutorials come.
So for you to play GTA 5, the first thing is you have to be 18 years old to play it. So I would first recommend that I'm not your parent and I'm not telling them what to do, but otherwise GTA 5 is available on your computer. You can buy it on PlayStation and stuff. As a game developer, there is a reason why they say you have to be 18 plus, and I understand that reason. Again, you have to ask your parents' permission before you can play GTA 5. So that is the first thing that I would say.
13 more years. I mean, 13 more years.
Yes. But don't worry, in that time, GTA 6 will come out and you can play that instead. It will be even better than GTA 5. So don't worry. So does anyone else have any questions?
I think there are a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, yeah. I missed a few things. My bad. Gauri has asked, my kids play these games, Hollow Knight and Hades and Skyrim, and together play Escape Room and CSGO. I haven't played any except Dave. That was years back. What would be a simple game to start with? So there are several, like I have just shared a handout of like 10 video games that I recommend. So that was actually one of the things we like, hey, these are games that I loved playing. And it the thing honestly comes down to what do you enjoy? Why do you play video games? People play video games for so many different reasons. Some people play it for that excitement, for that thrill, for that action. Some people play it to relax. Some people just want to like unwind and escape from a different world. So there are so many different games that you play for different reasons. One of the like simplest games that I have shared is something called Stardew Valley, where the whole point of the game is you're basically running a farm. You're a farmer and you're just running a farm and you're growing crops. But it is one of the most comforting and satisfying and like joyful games to play. It's just one of those kinds of games you can finish a hard day's work and come back to be like, hey, I don't want to worry about cooking food for my kid. I don't want to worry about making sure they've done their homework. This is just something that I want to like escape. I just want to grow some carrots and sell them in the market. So that's the kind of game. It has like very nice music to it. You're just like farming things. That is one really nice game. Another game that I've again recommended on the list is called What Remains of Edith Finch. And that is a game that if I've been someone who tells that, hey, there are some stories that only video games can share. There are some like movies and books are able to tell stories, but there are some stories that only video games can tell. And that game, What Remains of Edith Finch, is one of the best storytelling video games I have ever seen, because it tells stories in such an interactive way that you forget that you're playing a game. You forget because you have to do things to make the story happen in a way that is so interactive, and it is an absolute work of art. So that is a wonderful game to play. There is another game called Portal that I've again recommended. That is one of the few games that actually made me feel very smart. I don't feel smart most of the times, but that is one game where you basically solve puzzles by shooting portals into floors. So if you shoot one portal on one floor and shoot another portal on another floor, you can walk through that and you appear through the other portal. So you have to use that ability to solve puzzles inside in that game. And it is a hilarious game. The narrative, the commentator for the game is extremely funny. So there are lots of games like that. So I have 10 games that I've shared in that Google Drive link that and I'm biased in those games. Like these are games that I have enjoyed playing, and I know full-fledged that you guys will enjoy. Everyone is allowed to like whatever game they like. There is no one to tell that what you like is wrong, what you like is different. Like like my partner, the person that I live with, she likes completely different things. She plays completely different games that I usually do not play, or I usually do not enjoy playing. But what matters is she has fun playing it. She enjoys herself playing it. She has this game called the unpacking game that is basically you just taking things out of a box and putting it in a room. But then there is a nice story being shared because of what you're able to share, what you're able to place and where. So there's a small story being shared, and that's again comforting. That's again relaxing. There are other people who love playing games that are super exciting. I love playing horror games. I love playing games where I'm being competitive with people. I play FIFA so much. Like my friends, even though I'm in the US right now, I play it with my friends in India where we play FIFA together and we get super competitive. That's not for everyone. Not everyone likes being competitive all the time. So there are plenty of games. And as you mentioned, Hollow Knight, Hades, and Skyrim are very action-packed games. There's a lot happening, and that's not for everyone. Not everyone likes doing those kinds of games. So don't ever apologize for liking whatever game you like. Even if you like Candy Crush. Candy Crush is a super fun game. You're able to spend so much time playing it, and it is a video game. Just because it is on the phone and it's a small puzzle game does not make it any less of a video game. You're still a gamer. Being Candy Crush, playing Angry Birds, you're still a gamer, and as long as you enjoy playing it, that's all that matters.